Close your eyes, feel the weight of your body settle. Let the present moment fade away, now. Step backward through time, not years, not centuries, but thousands of years. Keep going, further, deeper into the past. Millions of years dissolve like mist. You are standing somewhere you have never been, somewhere no modern human has stood in living memory. Open your eyes. You are on the banks of an ancient river. The air is heavy. It presses against your skin, thick with humidity and the scent of decay. It is 95 million years ago. The sun burns high in a pale, hazy sky. This is not the Sahara Desert you know today. There are no dunes here, no endless oceans of sand. Instead, there is green, a sprawling, choking green. Mangroves twist their roots into black mud. Giant ferns unfurl in the damp heat. The temperature is a staggering 35 degrees Celsius, and it is only mid-morning. The river before you is vast. It is a slow-moving artery of brown water, wider than the Amazon, deeper than the Nile. It winds through a continent that is drifting, shifting, restless. The water is calm on the surface, but beneath it teems with giants. Shadows move in the murk. Ancient fish, the size of cars, glide through the reeds. A sawfish, known as Onchopristis, measures 8 meters in length. Its rostrum is lined with barbed teeth, gleaming in the filtered light. It is a world of monsters. But there is something else here, something larger. You feel it before you see it. A vibration in the ground, a rhythmic thudding that shakes the water in the footprints near the bank. The birds in the canopy fall silent. The insects stop their buzzing. The river itself seems to hold its breath. Then the water breaks. A snout emerges first. It is long and narrow, like a crocodile's, but far too large. It keeps coming. Teeth, conical and interlocking, flash white against the dark water. Then the head rises, massive and reptilian. The neck follows, thick with muscle, and then the true anomaly appears. A sail, a colossal fan of skin and bone, rising nearly 2 meters into the air. It cuts the sky like a blade. It is painted in hues of rust and ochre, flushing with blood, flushing with heat. This is Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, the spine lizard of Egypt. It stands now in the shallows, water cascading off its scaled flanks. It is immense. At 15 meters long, it dwarfs the Tyrannosaurus rex that will not be born for another 30 million years. It weighs over 7 tons, a living leviathan of bone and muscle. It is the largest carnivorous dinosaur to ever walk the earth. And yet, looking at it, your mind struggles to comprehend its shape. It does not look like a land animal. It does not look like a sea creature. It is something in between, a biological riddle wrapped in scales. It turns its head. The eyes are small, set high on the skull. It is listening. It is sensing. The pressure receptors on its snout can detect the heartbeat of a fish moving 5 meters away in the gloom. It is a perfect killing machine designed by millions of years of evolutionary pressure. But it shouldn't be here. The conventional wisdom of paleontology for decades said that dinosaurs were terrestrial. They owned the land, the plesiosaurs and mosasaurs owned the sea. There was a line, a boundary that was not crossed. But dinosaurs did not swim. They did not hunt in the deep channels. They were creatures of solid ground. Yet here it stands. The Spinosaurus. It defies the rules. It challenges the categories. It is a creature that seems stitched together from different blueprints. The snout of a gharial, the neck of a stork, the claws of a bear, the tail of a newt. And that sail, that magnificent, mysterious sail. Imagine the energy required to move a body of this size. 7 tons of predator. To fuel this engine, it must eat constantly. It must hunt. It dips its snout back into the water. It waits, still as a statue, the patience of deep time. A shadow passes beneath it, the Onchopristis. The sawfish does not see the danger from above. In a blur of motion, the Spinosaurus strikes. The water explodes. The jaws snap shut with the force of 2 tons of pressure. The sawfish thrashes, its barbed snout slashing the air, but the conical teeth hold fast. They are designed to grip, not to cut. The Spinosaurus lifts its prize, water streaming from its jaws, the sail flushing a brilliant red. It is a moment of primal violence and primal beauty. This is the apex predator of the Cretaceous river system. It fears nothing. Not the Carcharodontosaurus that prowls the tree line. Not the giant crocodiles that lurk in the mud. It is the king of 2 worlds, the master of the river. But the river is changing. The world is changing. The continents are pulling apart. The sea levels are fluctuating. The climate is shifting. This creature, this magnificent anomaly, is living on borrowed time. It is a specialized master in a world that favors the adaptable. And soon, very soon in geological terms, it will vanish. It will disappear so completely that for nearly a century we will forget what it truly looked like. Its bones will be lost to war. Its form will be debated, reconstructed, and debated again. It will become a ghost, a phantom of the fossil record, a puzzle with half the pieces missing. We are here to find the pieces. We are here to reconstruct the ghost. We are here to understand how such a creature could evolve, how it lived, and why it disappeared. We are here to walk the banks of the lost river and look into the eyes of the monster. The Spinosaurus slides back into the deep water. The sail remains visible for a moment, a fin cutting the surface, and then it is gone. The ripples fade, the silence returns, but the question remains. It hangs in the humid air like the scent of ozone before a storm. How? How did nature create a dinosaur that could swim? How did a terrestrial lineage turn back to the water? And what does the existence of this river monster tell us about the history of life on our planet? We think of dinosaurs as failures because they died out. We think of them as primitive, but look at the Spinosaurus. Look at the complexity. Look at the specialization. This is not a failure. This is a triumph of adaptation. It is a testament to the endless creativity of evolution. Tonight, we are going to follow that creativity. We are going to trace the path of the Spinosaurus from the first fragments of bone found in a desert oasis to the groundbreaking discoveries of the 21st century. We will travel from the bombing raids of World War II to the red sandstone cliffs of Morocco. We will swim in the digital currents of computer simulations. This is a journey into the deep past, a journey into the unknown, a journey to find the truth about the river monster that shouldn't exist. So, settle in. Let your breathing slow. Let your mind drift. The river is waiting. The current is gentle. The monster is sleeping. Or is it? The water is dark and deep. The secrets it holds are vast. And we have only just begun to scratch the surface. If you enjoy journeys like this one, consider subscribing. There's much more waiting for you. To understand the Spinosaurus, we must first understand the story of its discovery. It is a story that reads less like a scientific report and more like a tragedy. It begins not in a laboratory, but in the blistering heat of the Egyptian desert in the year 1912. The Bahariya Oasis is a depression in the western desert of Egypt. Today, it is a place of rock and sand scoured by wind. But beneath the sand lie the remnants of a lost world. In the early 20th century, a German paleontologist named Ernst Stromer von Reichenbach arrived in this desolate place. Stromer was a man of aristocratic background, driven by a fierce curiosity about the natural world. He was looking for early mammals, hoping to trace the lineage of humanity. Instead, he found giants. Stromer and his team, led by the fossil collector Richard Markgraf, began to uncover bones of immense size. They found the remains of massive sauropods, the long-necked herbivores. They found the teeth of large predators. But amongst these finds, there was something strange. something that did not fit the established taxonomy of the time. They found a jawbone. It was long, narrow, and lined with conical teeth. It looked, at first glance, like the jaw of a crocodile, but the size was all wrong, and it was found in association with other bones that were clearly dinosaurian. Then they found the spines. Neural spines are the bony projections that stick up from the vertebrae of a spinal column. In most dinosaurs, these spines are relatively short, providing anchor points for muscles. In Stromer's specimen, the spines were elongated to an extraordinary degree. Some measured up to 1.65 meters in length. They were massive, blade-like structures that would have supported a structure unlike anything seen before. Stromer realized he had discovered a new species. In 1915, he published his findings. He named the creature Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, the Egyptian spine lizard. In his descriptions, Stromer struggled to make sense of the animal. He noted the similarity of the jaw to a crocodile. He speculated about the function of the great dorsal sail. Was it for display? Was it for thermoregulation, acting as a heat radiator? The fossils were crated up and shipped to Munich, Germany. There, they were displayed in the Bavarian State Collection of Paleontology. They became a sensation. The Spinosaurus was a star, a dragon from the desert. For 30 years, the holotype specimen, the original set of bones that defines a species, stood in the museum hall. Then came the war. As World War II engulfed Europe, Ernst Stromer watched with growing dread. He was an outspoken critic of the Nazi regime, a stance that cost him dearly. His sons were sent to the front lines. 2 would die there, and he feared for his collection. He petitioned the museum director to move the Spinosaurus and other precious fossils to a secure location, perhaps a salt mine or a country estate, safe from the Allied bombing raids. His request was denied. The museum director, an ardent Nazi, refused to move the collection, believing that German soil would never be breached. It was a decision born of arrogance, and it resulted in a catastrophic loss for science. On the night of April 24, 1944, the Royal Air Force launched a massive bombing raid on Munich. Hundreds of bombers flew over the city. Incendiary bombs rained down. The museum was hit. The building was engulfed in flames. Inside, the holotype of Spinosaurus aegyptiacus burned. The bones, which had survived 95 million years of geological upheaval, were turned to ash in a single night of human violence. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but a few photographs and Stromer's detailed drawings. The Spinosaurus was gone. For the next half-century, the animal existed only on paper. It became a creature of legend, open to wild interpretation. Without the original bones to study, paleontologists could only guess at its true proportions. In textbooks from the 1970s and 80s, Spinosaurus was often depicted as a generic carnivore, a large bipedal meat-eater like a T-Rex or Allosaurus, but with a sail glued onto its back. The long crocodile-like snout was often ignored or downplayed. It was a chimera, a monster built of guesswork. It wasn't until the turn of the millennium that the Spinosaurus began to re-emerge from the shadows. New fragments began to appear on the fossil market, dug up by commercial diggers in the Kem beds of Morocco. These beds, similar in age and composition to the Bahariya Formation, preserved the same ancient river system. Enter Nizar Ibrahim. A young German-Moroccan paleontologist, Ibrahim grew up hearing stories of the lost dinosaur. He was obsessed with finding it. He wanted to finish what Stromer had started. In 2008, while doing fieldwork in Morocco, he was approached by a local fossil hunter. The man had a cardboard box containing some bone fragments. One piece, a blade-like spine, caught Ibrahim's eye. It looked familiar. It looked like Spinosaurus. Ibrahim bought the specimens, but he lost contact with the fossil hunter. Years later, at a museum in Italy, colleagues showed him a partial skeleton they had acquired. It was a Spinosaurus. but it was missing key context. They didn't know exactly where it had been found. Ibrahim realized that the bone fragments he had seen in the cardboard box belonged to this same skeleton. If he could find the fossil hunter, he could find the site. What followed was a detective story worthy of a novel. Ibrahim returned to Morocco. He searched the cafes and tea shops of Erfoud, looking for a man whose face he barely remembered. Miraculously, he found him. The man led Ibrahim to a hillside in the Kem region. There, eroding out of the red sandstone, were more bones. This was the rediscovery of Spinosaurus aegyptiacus. Ibrahim and his team, including the renowned paleontologist Paul Sereno from the University of Chicago, excavated the site. They recovered a wealth of material: leg bones, vertebrae, skull fragments. For the first time since 1944, science had a partial skeleton to work with. In 2014, they published their findings in the journal Science. The paper was a bombshell. The reconstruction they presented was radical. It showed an animal with incredibly short hind legs. So short, in fact, that the center of gravity was shifted far forward. The researchers argued that Spinosaurus could not have walked bipedally on land like other theropods. It would have been too front-heavy. Instead, they proposed it was a semi-aquatic quadruped, perhaps walking on its knuckles like a giant anteater when on land, but spending most of its time in the water. The reception was mixed. The scientific community was divided. Some accepted the new paradigm, others were skeptical. They argued that the short legs were a chimera effect. Perhaps the bones belonged to a juvenile or different individuals mixed together. They questioned the swimming mechanics. How could a dinosaur swim effectively without a specialized propulsive organ? The debate raged for 6 years. Computer models were built. Biomechanical studies were run. The Spinosaurus remained a controversial figure. Was it a wading heron standing in the shallows and dipping its head? Or was it a pursuit predator chasing prey through the deep channels? Then came 2020. Nizar Ibrahim returned to the Kem. He went back to the same site, digging deeper into the rock. And there, buried in the hard sandstone, he found the missing piece of the puzzle. The tail. Most dinosaur tails are stiff and tapering. They are used for balance. Well, the tail Ibrahim found was different. The neural spines on the tail vertebrae were long and projected outwards. The chevrons, the bones on the underside of the tail, were also elongated. Together, they formed a large, flat surface. It was not a tapering whip, it was a paddle. The structure was remarkably similar to the tail of a newt or a crocodile. It was a fin. Ibrahim and his colleagues took the data to Harvard. They built a robotic model of the tail and tested it in a water flume. The results were conclusive. The tail of Spinosaurus produced 8 times more thrust than the tail of a typical theropod like T-Rex. It was a propulsive organ, a biological motor. On April 29, 2020, the team published their new findings in Nature. The paper, entitled Tail-Propelled Aquatic Locomotion in a Theropod Dinosaur, fundamentally changed our understanding of dinosaurs. It provided the first unambiguous evidence of an aquatic propulsive structure in a non-avian dinosaur. The pieces finally fit. The long snout for snapping at fish, the conical teeth for gripping slippery prey, the dense bones, verified by cross-sections showing they were solid, not hollow like most predatory dinosaurs, which acted as ballast to help the animal sink. The short hind legs, which reduced drag. And now, the paddle tail. Spinosaurus was not just a wading animal, it was a river monster, a swimmer, a dinosaur that had conquered the water. The journey from Stromer's lost fossils to Ibrahim's robotic tests is a testament to the resilience of science. Facts can be destroyed by bombs, but the truth waits in the rock. It waits for the right eyes, the right tools, and the right moment to emerge. We now know that Spinosaurus measured up to 15 meters in length. That is nearly 50 feet. It weighed an estimated 7 to 7.4 metric tons. The sail on its back reached heights of 1.7 meters, taller than a human being. It lived roughly 95 to 99 million years ago in the Cenomanian stage of the late Cretaceous period. These are the numbers, these are the facts. But facts alone do not capture the essence of the creature. To truly understand Spinosaurus, we must place it back in its world. We must rebuild the ecosystem that supported such a giant. We must feel the heat of the Cretaceous sun and smell the mud of the river delta. The science gives us the skeleton. Our imagination, guided by that science, must supply the flesh. And what flesh it is. Thick, scarred skin. With powerful muscles driving that massive tail. Eyes that scan the murky depths. The discovery of the tail was the tipping point. It turned a debate into a revelation. It forced us to look at dinosaurs with fresh eyes. They were not just landlocked giants. They were adaptable. They were diverse. They were capable of invading niches we thought were closed to them. In the next chapter of our journey, we will step into that niche. We will walk and swim alongside the Spinosaurus. We will explore the Chem beds, not as a dusty excavation site, but as a living, breathing ecosystem. A place of danger and abundance. A place where the line between water and land blurred, and where a dragon ruled the river. The science is the foundation. The world building is the structure, and the Spinosaurus is the resident. Let us enter its home. This is the reality of deep time. It is not a static picture. It is a moving, flowing, evolving story. And we are the audience, watching from the safety of the present as the giants of the past enact their drama. The world of the Cenomanian is a world in overdrive. It is a hothouse Earth, a planet turned up to maximum temperature. There are no polar ice caps, no glaciers grinding across the continents, no frozen wastelands at the ends of the Earth. Instead, palm trees grow in what will one day be Alaska. Crocodiles swim in what will become Norway. The planet is warm from pole to pole. Sea levels are 170 meters higher than they are today. To put that in perspective, if you could stand in the Cenomanian and look at what will become modern coastlines, you would see nothing but open ocean. Most of Florida is underwater. The Gulf Coast of North America is pushed hundreds of kilometers inland. The North Sea doesn't exist. It is part of a vast shallow sea covering northern Europe. The continents are flooded, creating vast shallow inland seas that sparkle under the intense sun. These epicontinental seas are warm, nutrient-rich, and teeming with life. They are nurseries for marine creatures, breeding grounds for the ancestors of modern fish. The Atlantic Ocean is widening, pushing Africa away from South America at a rate of a few centimeters per year. The rift that began in the Jurassic continues its inexorable work. The continents are drifting. The map of the world is being redrawn by forces deep within the Earth. And on the northern coast of Africa, where the Sahara Desert will one day bake under a merciless sun, a great river system drains the continent. It is fed by monsoon rains falling on mountains far to the south. It carries the sediment, the nutrients, and the lifeblood of the interior, delivering it to the Tethys Sea. This is the domain of the Chem group in Morocco and the Bahariya Formation in Egypt. These are the names we give to the rock layers today, but 95 million years ago, these were not separate nations, not separate places. They were part of a continuous, immense ecosystem that stretched across North Africa, from the Atlantic coast in the west to the ancient Proto-Mediterranean in the east. It was a landscape of extremes, a world of water and heat and teeth. Imagine a delta the size of Western Europe, bigger than the modern Mississippi Delta, bigger than the Amazon basin. A labyrinth of winding channels, oxbow lakes, brackish lagoons, and endless mud flats that stretch to the horizon. The water is turbid, opaque, heavy with silt and clay washed down from the distant mountains of Central Africa. It is a brown, sluggish soup that hides everything beneath its surface. Visibility underwater is measured in centimeters, not meters. The channels are constantly shifting. The river does not follow a fixed path. Every rainy season, it overflows its banks, carving new channels, abandoning old ones. Islands appear and disappear. Sandbars migrate downstream. It is a dynamic, ever-changing maze. The climate is tropical, but not like the tropics we know today. It is hotter, more humid. The average temperature hovers around 30 degrees Celsius even in the early morning. But in the midday sun, when the sky is a bleached white and the air shimmers with heat, it can spike to 40 degrees, perhaps higher. The air is saturated with moisture. Humidity hangs at nearly 100%. Every breath you take feels like you are breathing water. It is a sauna, a steam bath, a greenhouse where life grows with terrifying speed and abundance. The rainy season brings torrential downpours. The sky opens up. Rain falls in sheets, drumming on the water, turning the river into a roiling, muddy torrent. Lightning splits the sky. Thunder echoes across the delta. Flash floods sweep through the channels, carrying trees, animals, and sediment. It is a violent, elemental world. Vegetation chokes the banks. It is overwhelming, suffocating. There are no grasses yet. They have not evolved to dominate the landscape as they will in the Cenozoic. Instead, the ground is carpeted in ferns, their fronds unfurling in the damp shade. Horsetails, are primitive and ancient, grow in dense thickets along the water's edge, their jointed stems reaching 2 meters high. Gymnosperms, conifers, and cycads tower overhead, creating a canopy that filters the sunlight into a green underwater glow. The conifers are not like modern pines. They are broader, their trunks massive, their branches spreading wide. Araucarias, the monkey puzzle trees, are common. Cycads, with their palm-like fronds and thick, bulbous trunks, dot the landscape, living fossils even in the Cretaceous. Early flowering plants, the angiosperms, are beginning to take hold. They are the new kids on the evolutionary block, having appeared only recently in geological terms. But they are aggressive colonizers. They add splashes of color to the relentless green, whites, yellows, pale pinks. Small flowers, primitive by modern standards. They attract the attention of insects, and then there are the mangroves. They march out into the water with their stilt roots, creating impenetrable walls of wood and leaf. These are not exactly the same mangroves we see today, but they fill the same ecological niche. They are salt-tolerant, able to survive in the brackish water where the river meets the sea. Their roots create complex three-dimensional habitats, nurseries for juvenile fish, hiding places for crabs and shrimp. They stabilize the mud, preventing erosion. They are the architects of this ecosystem. The soundscape is deafening. If you could stand on the bank, close your eyes, and just listen, you would be overwhelmed. The buzz of giant insects is a constant drone, a low-frequency hum that vibrates in your chest. Cicadas the size of small birds scream from the canopy, their mating calls echoing through the humid air. It is a sound that rises and falls in waves, pulsing with the rhythm of life. Dragonflies with wingspans of 70 centimeters, the size of a crow, dart over the water, their iridescent wings catching the light. They are aerial predators, hunting smaller insects, sometimes even small vertebrates. They hover, they dive, they snatch their prey out of the air with terrible precision. There are frogs croaking, unseen in the reeds. Their calls are deep and resonant, a primordial sound. They sing at dusk, a chorus that can be heard for kilometers. They are everywhere, these amphibians, thriving in the wet heat. And above it all, cutting through the insect drone and the frog chorus, is the screech of pterosaurs. It is a harsh, grating sound, like rusty hinges or tearing metal. They call to each other as they fly, communicating across the expanse of the delta. They are the lords of the air, unchallenged by any bird, for the birds are still small, insignificant creatures at this point in time. At night, the sounds change. The insects continue, but the frogs grow louder. And there are other sounds. The splash of something large moving through the water, the low rumble of a crocodilian, the distant roar of a theropod claiming its territory. The night is not quiet. The night is alive. Pterosaurs rule the sky. They are the undisputed masters of the air. Alanca saharica, a majestic flying reptile with a 6-meter wingspan, glides on the thermals that rise from the sun-baked mudflats. Its long, toothless beak is designed for snatching prey, small fish from the water, lizards from the banks, so perhaps even carrion from carcasses. Its neck is long and flexible, its body lightweight, its bones hollow. It is a marvel of evolutionary engineering. It casts a fleeting shadow over the mudflats, a dark cross moving across the ground, before banking away towards the cliffs where it roosts. There, on the sandstone outcrops that line the delta, colonies of pterosaurs nest. They are social creatures, living in groups, squabbling over territory and mates. But Alanca is not alone. There are other pterosaurs here, smaller species with shorter wings and different feeding strategies. Some filter feed in the shallows, their beaks lined with fine comb-like structures. Some hunt insects on the wing. The sky is busy, contested, full of life. But the true giants are in the water. This is where the biomass is concentrated. This is where the Cenomanian river system reveals its secret. The river system of the Kem is often called the River of Giants by paleontologists, and for good reason. The fossil record here is skewed, unusual, puzzling. There are an unusually high number of large predators compared to herbivores. It is a predator-heavy ecosystem, a food pyramid that seems inverted, top-heavy, unstable. How can this be? How can an ecosystem support so many apex predators without collapsing? In most terrestrial ecosystems, predators are rare. They sit at the top of the pyramid, supported by a vast base of herbivores and plants. But here, the rules are different. The answer lies in the water. The river is the engine of this world. It is not just a habitat, it is a calorie factory. It is teeming with fish of colossal proportions, a fish that reproduce quickly, fish that feed on the endless supply of organic matter washing down from the interior. The productivity of this river system is off the charts. Meet Morsonia. It is a coelacanth, a type of lobe-finned fish, a living fossil even in the Cretaceous. But unlike its modern, deep-sea cousins, which are relatively small and elusive, Morsonia is a tank, a behemoth. It grows up to 4 meters long as a large crocodile. It weighs several hundred kilograms. It has a heavy, ossified skull, armored with thick bone plates. Its scales are massive, overlapping like roof tiles, providing protection from predators. Morsonia is a slow swimmer, ponderous and deliberate. It lurks in the gloom of the deeper channels, using its fleshy, lobed fins to hover in the water column. It is a suction feeder, opening its mouth rapidly to create a vacuum that sucks in smaller prey, fish, crustaceans, anything that comes within range. It is not a pursuit predator, it is an ambusher. And it is abundant. The Kem channels are full of them. They are a swimming meal for anything large enough and powerful enough to catch them. But catching a Morsonia is not easy. Its armor makes it difficult to kill. Its size makes it difficult to swallow. Only the largest predators can take on an adult Morsonia. Then there is Onchopristis, the sawfish we encountered earlier. 8 meters of cartilage and muscle, one of the largest sawfish to ever exist. Its most distinctive feature is its rostrum, a long, flattened snout lined with barbed teeth that project sideways like the teeth of a saw. This rostrum is not just for show. It is a weapon and a sensory organ, where Onchopristis uses its rostrum to stir up the sediment on the river bottom, flushing out buried crustaceans and small fish. It can also detect the electrical fields, generated by the muscles of hidden prey. When it detects something, it slashes sideways with its saw, stunning or killing the prey, then snaps it up with its mouth. It congregates in the shallows, perhaps to breed, perhaps to feed on the seasonal abundance of prey. During these gatherings, the water seems to boil with sawfish, their dorsal fins breaking the surface, their rostrums clashing as males compete for dominance. And there are lungfish, large turtles, and crocodilians. The sheer biomass in the water is staggering. This aquatic abundance allows the large predators to coexist. They don't need to compete for scarce land herbivores because the river offers an endless buffet. On the banks, the competition is fierce. Carcharodontosaurus saharicus is the shark-toothed lizard. It is a land-based theropod, a cousin of the Giganotosaurus. It rivals Spinosaurus in size, reaching lengths of 12 to 13 meters. It has a massive skull filled with serrated, blade-like teeth designed to slice through flesh. It is a hunter of sauropods. You can see a Carcharodontosaurus now, stalking the edge of the mangrove forest. It is a terrifying sight. Its skin is a mottled pattern of grey and brown, breaking up its outline in the dappled light. It moves with a heavy, purposeful gait. It watches the river, wary of the Spinosaurus, but also opportunistic. If a carcass washes up, the Carcharodontosaurus will fight for it. There is another predator here, Bahariasaurus, a mysterious theropod known only from sparse remains. It is large, perhaps 11 meters long, agile and swift. It fills the niche of a pursuit predator on land, chasing down smaller dinosaurs. And what of the herbivores? They are here, though less numerous in the fossil record. Paralititan, a titanid sauropod, lumbers through the deeper water. It is one of the heaviest creatures to ever walk the earth, weighing up to 50 tons. Its massive legs are like pillars. It uses the buoyancy of the water to support its bulk as it feeds on the aquatic vegetation. Its long neck sweeps through the canopy of the mangroves, stripping leaves by the bushel. This is the stage, a hot, wet, dangerous paradise. And in the center of it all, moving between the worlds of land and water, is Spinosaurus. Here, imagine a typical day for a Spinosaurus. It begins before dawn. The air is slightly cooler, though still warm. The dinosaur wakes on a sandbar, its massive body curled up. It rises. The movement is awkward on land. Its short rear legs struggle to lift the 7 tons of mass. It uses its powerful forearms, tipped with hook-like claws, to push itself up. It shuffles towards the water. This is not a graceful runner. It is top-heavy. But as soon as it enters the river, it transforms. The water takes the weight. The awkwardness vanishes. It slides into the depths with barely a splash. Now it is in its element. It floats, its nostrils placed high on the snout, remaining above the surface, like a crocodile's periscope. The sail acts as a stabilizer, preventing it from rolling in the current. Or perhaps it is a display flag, a warning other Spinosaurus to keep their distance. This is my territory. This is my hunting ground. It dives. The nictitating membranes, clear inner eyelids, slide across its eyes, protecting them from the silt. The world becomes a blur of green and brown. It propels itself with slow, powerful sweeps of its paddle tail. Whoosh, whoosh. The thrust is immense. It glides through the underwater forest of mangrove roots. It spots a school of large lungfish. They scatter. The Spinosaurus does not chase them. It is too large for high-speed turns. Instead, it herds them. It uses its size to push them towards a dead-end channel. Then, it strikes. The neck snaps forward, the jaws close. It swallows the fish whole. Later in the day, as the sun reaches its zenith, the heat becomes oppressive. The Carcharodontosaurus retreats to the shade of the deep forest. The smaller dinosaurs burrow into the mud. But Spinosaurus remains active. The water keeps it cool. The sail, flushed with blood, radiates excess heat into the air, a biological air conditioning system. It hauls itself onto a mudflat to rest. It lies on its belly, the sun baking the mud on its scales. Small pterosaurs land on its back, picking off parasites. It is a moment of symbiotic peace in a violent world. But peace is fleeting. A storm is brewing. The sky turns a bruised purple. Thunder rolls across the delta. The Cenomanian climate is prone to violent weather. Hurricanes sweep in from the Tethys Sea. The wind whips the mangroves. The water churns. The Spinosaurus slides back into the river for safety. The water is a sanctuary. Even in a storm, the deep channels offer protection. It sinks to the bottom, its dense bones anchoring it against the current. It waits out the tempest, a submarine monster in the dark. When the storm passes, the river is swollen. Carcasses of land animals caught in the flash floods float downstream. It is a feast. The Spinosaurus scavenges. It uses its hooked claws to tear into the remains of a drowned sauropod. It is not a picky eater, it is a survivor. This world, the River of Giants, is a unique experiment in Earth's history. Never before and never since has there been such a concentration of large carnivorous dinosaurs in a single ecosystem. It relied on the unique geography of the time, the vast delta, the high sea levels, the tropical climate. It was a delicate balance, a house of cards built on water. If the sea levels dropped, if the delta dried up, the system would collapse. The giants would have nowhere to go. They were specialized for this specific world. They were masters of a specific domain. As you visualize this, feel the texture of the environment, the sticky mud sucking at your feet, the rough bark of the conifer trees, the slick, cool scales of the fish, the oppressive, wet heat that makes the air shimmer. See the colors, the deep emerald of the vegetation, the chocolate brown of the river, the rusty red of the sandstone cliffs, the flash of silver from a fish's flank, the vibrant crimson of the Spinosaurus sail. Hear the sounds. The guttural rumble of the Spinosaurus, a sound felt in the chest more than heard. The splash of a tail, the crack of a branch, the primeval chorus of the Cretaceous night. This is not a movie. This was real. This happened on the very planet you are resting on right now. The atoms that made up the Spinosaurus are still here, recycled through the ages, perhaps part of the water you drink or the air you breathe. We are connected to this deep past. We are part of the same long story, and for a few moments we can return to it. We can stand on the shore and watch the monsters pass. The sun begins to set over the Kem. The sky turns a blazing orange, reflecting off the water. The silhouettes of pterosaurs darken against the light. The Spinosaurus raises its head and lets out a low bellow. It is a song of dominance, a song of survival. Night falls. The stars come out. The same stars, mostly, that we see today, though arranged slightly differently. Under their cold light, the river continues its flow. The heart of the continent beats. The world building is complete. You are there. You are safe, an observer in the shadows. The danger is real for them, but not for you. For you, it is a spectacle, a dream of a time when dragons were real. Now, let us turn our attention to the mystery that lies at the heart of this creature. The question that keeps paleontologists awake at night. The pivot point of our understanding. How could a dinosaur this bizarre actually exist? This is the question that haunts us. Evolution is usually a process of gradual refinement. It takes a working design and tweaks it. A wolf becomes a dog. A small cat becomes a lion. The basic blueprint remains the same, but Spinosaurus feels like a departure. It feels like a sudden, sharp left turn in the evolutionary road. Theropod dinosaurs, the group that includes T-Rex, Velociraptor, Fiant birds, are defined by certain traits. They are bipedal. They are runners. Their tails are stiff balancers. Their heads are boxy and powerful. Spinosaurus violates almost all of these rules. It is as if a wolf decided to become a crocodile. Consider the risks. To evolve into a semi-aquatic giant requires a tremendous investment of evolutionary capital. You have to change your bone density. You have to change your center of gravity. You have to change your sensory systems. You have to change your teeth. Why do it? Why leave the land? The land was full of prey. There were vast herds of sauropods. There were ornithopods. The terrestrial buffet was open. Why turn your back on it and slide into the river? Was it competition? Was the pressure from Carcharodontosaurus so great that the ancestors of Spinosaurus were forced to find a new niche? Did they flee the land to avoid conflict only to find that they could dominate the water? Or was it opportunity? Was the river so rich, so overflowing with biomass that it acted like a magnet? Did it pull a lineage of terrestrial predators into the water simply because the eating was good? And how did they survive the transition? Evolution does not plan ahead. A half-aquatic animal is often a bad swimmer and a bad walker. It is vulnerable. How did the intermediate stages of Spinosaurus survive? How did they avoid being eaten by the giant crocodiles that already ruled the river? These are layered questions. They touch on the mechanics of evolution itself. They ask us to consider how radical change happens. Does it happen in slow, imperceptible steps, or does it happen in bursts of rapid adaptation? And then there is the sail, the great enigma. If Spinosaurus spent its life in the water, why have a massive sail? A sail creates drag. It catches the current. It makes swimming harder. It makes you visible to everything. Why handicap yourself? Unless the sail was so important for something else, display, heat regulation, species recognition, that it was worth the cost. It suggests a complex social life. It suggests that these monsters looked at each other, judged each other, perhaps even courted each other. The existence of Spinosaurus challenges our assumptions about what dinosaurs were capable of. We often think of them as rigid, stuck in their ways, but Spinosaurus shows us that they were plastic. They were malleable. They could twist their own biology to fit the world. It forces us to ask, what else did we miss? If a 15-meter swimming dinosaur could hide in the fossil record for a century, what other experiments are buried in the rock? What other impossible creatures walked or swam or flew in the deep past? We are looking at a single frame of a long movie. We see the monster in its final, glorious form, but we missed the journey. We missed the millions of years of trial and error that led to this moment. The pivot is this. Spinosaurus is not just a weird dinosaur, it is a key. It unlocks a door to a wider view of life. It tells us that nature is not afraid to break its own rules. It tells us that the boundaries we draw, land versus water, reptile versus bird, monster versus animal, are artificial. The river monster shouldn't exist according to the old rules, but the old rules were wrong. And as we peel back the layers of time, we find that the truth is stranger and more wonderful than we ever dared to imagine. But here is where the story gets truly strange. For years, even after the 2014 rediscovery, many paleontologists still argued that Spinosaurus was merely a wader, a giant stork. They looked at the tail and said, "It's too stiff." They looked at the hips and said, "They are too weak for swimming." They argued that a dinosaur, by definition, could not be a pursuit predator in water. The physics, they claimed, didn't work. It would float too much, it would be unstable, it would tip over. Then came the isotopes. In science, bones tell you shape, but chemistry tells you life. Researchers analyzed the oxygen isotopes in the teeth of Spinosaurus. Oxygen isotopes vary depending on whether an animal spends its time in freshwater or seawater, and how much time it spends submerged. They compared the Spinosaurus teeth to those of known land dinosaurs and to crocodiles and turtles from the same formation. The results were shocking. The chemical signature of Spinosaurus teeth was indistinguishable from that of the crocodiles and turtles. It was completely different from the land-dwelling theropods. This animal wasn't just dipping its toes in the water. It wasn't just fishing from the bank. It was living in the water. It was soaking in it. The chemistry suggests that Spinosaurus spent the vast majority of its life submerged. It was more aquatic than we thought possible. It was essentially a river dragon. And there is more: the density of the bones. When Ibrahim and his team cut into the femur of Spinosaurus, they expected to find a hollow center. It was like the marrow cavity in a bird bone or a T-Rex bone. Hollow bones are light. They are good for walking and running. Instead, they found solid bone. Dense, heavy, compact. This condition, known as osteosclerosis, is found in penguins. It is found in manatees. It is found in early whales. It is an adaptation for diving. Heavy bones act as a diving belt. They counteract the natural buoyancy of the lungs. They allow an animal to sink and stay submerged without expending energy to fight the float. This discovery shattered the wader hypothesis. You don't need heavy bones to stand in shallow water. You need them to dive deep. You need them to prowl the riverbed. So, we have a dinosaur that is chemically a crocodile, structurally a penguin, and visually a dragon. The strangeness deepens. The more we look, the less it resembles a dinosaur. It is becoming something else entirely, something unique in the history of life. If this story is carrying you somewhere peaceful, feel free to close your eyes. The narration will guide you. Let us now drift into the realm of the what if. We have the bones, the chemistry, and the environment. Now, let us use them to weave the tapestry of time. Let us spiral backwards to the beginning and then forwards through the life of this lineage, exploring how such an impossibility came to be. This is not fantasy. This is speculation grounded in science. Every step we take is guided by the evidence written in stone and the principles of evolutionary biology. Close your eyes once more. Feel the spiral of time pulling you backwards. We are leaving the Cenomanian. We are moving deeper into the Cretaceous. The continents are in different positions. Africa and South America are closer together. The Atlantic is narrower. The world is reshaping itself. The story begins not with a giant, but with a small generalist predator. Go back to the early Cretaceous, perhaps 120 million years ago. The forests are dense with conifers and ancient flowering plants just beginning to spread. The air smells of resin and damp earth. The ancestors of Spinosaurus, the Spinosaurids, split from the main megalosaurid line. They are bipedal. They have typical theropod heads, boxy and powerful. They hunt small lizards and mammals on the forest floor, darting between the ferns, relying on speed and cunning. They are unremarkable. They are survivors, not dominators. They occupy the middle tier of the food chain. Above them loom the true giants, the carcharodontosaurs and the allosaurids. Way below them scurry the smaller creatures, the ancestors of mammals. They are neither the strongest nor the fastest. They are simply there, making a living in the spaces left by others. But the world is getting wetter. The climate is warming. The polar ice caps, which barely existed, melt entirely. The sea levels are rising, slowly but relentlessly, creeping inland at a pace of meters per century. The river systems are expanding, their channels growing wider, their deltas stretching further into the ocean. Wetlands spread across the lowlands like a green tide, and these ancestors find themselves pushed to the margins. Perhaps the competition in the deep forest is too intense. The carcharodontosaurids are becoming dominant, their size and power securing the best hunting grounds. The Spinosaurid ancestors cannot compete head-to-head. They are outmatched. To survive, they must look elsewhere. They must find a niche that the giants have overlooked. They look to the water, the rivers, the swamps, the edges where land meets liquid. Here, there is opportunity. Here, there is food that no other large predator is exploiting. The water is full of fish, teeming with life. and the fish are defenseless against a creature that can walk on land. It is a frontier, an ecological vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. And so, the first step is taken. It is not a dramatic leap, it is a subtle shift, a behavioral change, not a physical one. Yet, they begin to scavenge on the riverbanks. Dead fish, washed up by floods, rot in the sun. They are easy meals. They require no chasing, no fighting, no risk. The ancestors develop a taste for fish. The flavor is different from red meat, oilier, is softer, but it is abundant. Over thousands of years, a pattern emerges. Those individuals that are slightly better at catching fish have a survival advantage. Those with slightly longer snouts can reach into crevices where fish hide. Those with slightly more flexible necks can snap sideways to catch prey darting past. The variation already exists in the population, it always does. Selection pressure begins to favor the long jaw. Natural selection is patient. It works on timescales that dwarf human comprehension. 1,000 generations, 10,000. Each generation, the average snout length increases by a fraction of a millimeter, imperceptible to any observer, but over deep time, it compounds. 10,000 years pass. The climate continues to warm. The rivers widen. Then 100,000 years, 200,000. The snout elongates, so the skull becomes lighter at the tip to accommodate the longer structure. The jaw muscles rearrange themselves. The teeth change. The serrated blades of a meat-eater, designed for slicing through skin and muscle, are replaced by the conical spikes of a fish-eater, designed for gripping slippery scales. The teeth lose their serrations. They become smooth, needle-like, interlocking. The nostril begins to migrate backwards, away from the tip of the snout. This is a crucial adaptation. It allows the animal to breathe while holding prey in the water. A crocodile does this, a gharial does this. Convergent evolution writes the same solution in different lineages. Pressure receptors appear on the snout. These are small pits filled with nerve endings, sensitive to minute changes in water pressure. They can detect the movement of a fish in murky water where vision is useless. This is the same system used by modern crocodiles and some sharks. Evolution is conservative. It reuses good ideas. This is the stage of the baryonyx, a relative of Spinosaurus found in the early Cretaceous rocks of England, dated to roughly 125 million years ago. Baryonyx is a transitional form, a wader. It has the hook claws for scooping fish from the shallows, the long crocodile-like snout with conical teeth. But it is still largely terrestrial. It walks on land with ease. Its legs are long and powerful. It does not swim well. It is an opportunist standing in the shallows, waiting for fish to come within striking distance. Baryonyx is a glimpse of the pathway. It shows us what the intermediate stages might have looked like. It is not Spinosaurus, but it is on the road to becoming Spinosaurus. The blueprint is taking shape, but the lineage continues. The environment in North Africa pushes them further. The climate becomes even hotter. The Tethys Sea expands. The rivers get bigger, deeper, wider. The fish get bigger. Morsonia, the giant coelacanth, appears. Onchopristis, the 8-meter sawfish, thrives in these waters. The prey is growing, and to hunt it, the predator must grow as well. The wader lifestyle hits a limit. To catch the biggest fish, the ones that provide the most calories, you have to go deeper. You can't just stand on the bank and wait. You have to enter their world. You have to become part of the water. And so, the body begins to change. This is where the transformation becomes radical. This is where the Spinosaurids cross the threshold from terrestrial to aquatic. Over the next 5 million years, a blink in geological time, an eternity in evolutionary time, the legs shorten. Why? Because long-running legs are drag in the water. They are levers that resist the flow, creating turbulence. They slow you down. Short, powerful legs are better. They can tuck against the body, reducing the profile, streamlining the shape. The hind limbs become stubby, almost vestigial looking. The femur shrinks relative to the body size. This creates a problem on land. The center of gravity shifts forward. The animal becomes front-heavy. Walking becomes awkward. It stumbles. It uses its powerful forearms to stabilize itself, walking on its knuckles like a giant scaled ape. It is clumsy, vulnerable. But in the water, it levels out. The buoyancy supports the weight. The forward center of gravity becomes an advantage. It pitches the body into a horizontal swimming posture. Streamlined, efficient. The drag is minimized. This is the trade-off. Evolution is full of trade-offs. You cannot be perfect at everything. The Spinosaurids are betting their future on the water. They are sacrificing terrestrial mobility for aquatic efficiency. The bones densify. This is perhaps the most remarkable adaptation of all. In most dinosaurs, the long bones are hollow, filled with air sacs connected to the respiratory system. This makes them light. Birds have the same system. It is an inheritance from their common ancestor. But in Spinosaurus, the bones fill in. The marrow cavities close. The bone tissue becomes compact, dense, heavy. This condition, called osteosclerosis, is found in diving animals across the tree of life. Penguins have it, manatees have it, early whales have it. It serves a single purpose: ballast. Dense bones counteract the natural buoyancy of the lungs and body fat. They allow an animal to sink and stay submerged without expending energy fighting the float. They turn the skeleton into an anchor. For a dinosaur, this is expensive. Bone is metabolically costly to produce and maintain. Dense bone is even more costly. But the payoff is access to a food source that no other large predator can reach. The deep water fish, the bottom dwellers, the creatures hiding in the submerged root systems. Spinosaurus can reach them all. The buoyancy issue is solved. Now they can sink. Now they can hover in the water column like a submarine, adjusting their depth with small movements, conserving energy. They can lie on the riverbed, waiting, invisible in the silt. But there is still a problem, the problem of propulsion. How do you move a 7-ton body through water without specialized fins? How do you generate thrust? You can paddle with your feet, kicking like a dog, but that is inefficient for a creature of this size. The energy expenditure is too high. There must be a better way. The tail. The tail is the answer. It always was. The tail is where the revolution happens. In most theropods, the tail is a stiff counterbalance. The vertebrae are locked together by bony processes called pre-zygapophyses and post-zygapophyses. These are interlocking joints that prevent lateral flexion. The tail can move up and down slightly, but not side to side. It is rigid. This rigidity is useful for balance while running. It acts like the pole a tightrope walker carries. But in the Spinosaurus lineage, something changes. The genes that control tail development unlock. Mutations occur. The stiffening commands are silenced. The interlocking processes shrink. The vertebrae become loosely articulated. Suddenly, the tail can bend, and then the shape begins to change. The neural spines, the bony projections on the top of the vertebrae, grow taller. They extend upwards. The chevrons, the bones on the underside of the vertebrae, grow longer. They extend downwards. Together, these structures create height. They increase the surface area of the tail. Step by step, generation by generation, over 2 million years, the tail widens. It becomes a paddle, flexible yet strong. It begins to undulate. At first, it just helps with steering, providing minor course corrections. Then it provides a little thrust, a gentle push. The fish notice the difference. The Spinosaurids can follow them now, can match their turns. Finally, after countless generations, the tail becomes the primary engine. a massive oscillating paddle that can drive the animal forward with terrifying power. The muscles that attach to the neural spines and chevrons become enormous. They are hypaxial muscles, borrowed from the body wall, repurposed for lateral movement. When they contract, the tail sweeps sideways. When they relax, elastic recoil brings it back. The motion is efficient, fluid, relentless. The robotic tests conducted by Ibrahim, Lauder, and their team at Harvard quantified this. The Spinosaurus tail produced 8 times more thrust than a typical theropod tail. 8 times. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a complete redesign. That is the difference between paddling and swimming. This would mean that Spinosaurus was no longer a dinosaur trying to swim. It was a swimming creature that happened to be a dinosaur. It had crossed the threshold. It had completed the transition. It was aquatic. Imagine the transition period. Picture the intermediate forms that must have existed. The duck dinosaurs, creatures caught between 2 worlds. They weren't quite great at swimming yet. Their tails were developing, but not perfected. Their legs were shortening, but still cumbersome. And they were terrible at running. Their center of balance was shifting, making them awkward and slow on land. These intermediates must have been vulnerable. They were neither here nor there. They couldn't outrun the land predators. They couldn't outswim the aquatic predators. They existed in the dangerous margin between niches. By all logic, they should have gone extinct. But they didn't. They survived. How? They must have relied on the sheer richness of the river to carry them through their own awkwardness. The fish were so abundant, the calories so available, that even a clumsy predator could get enough to eat. The river was forgiving. It cushioned their inadequacy long enough for them to evolve past it. This is an important lesson about evolution. It requires not just mutation and selection, but also opportunity. An abundant niche, a rich environment, a safety net. Without the fish-filled rivers, the Spinosaurids would have failed. They would have remained marginal predators in the forest, eventually outcompeted and erased. But the rivers were there. The opportunity was there. And so, the impossible became possible. And what of the sail? That magnificent, towering structure? When did that appear? How did something so extreme, so costly, so conspicuous evolve? Perhaps it started as a small ridge, barely noticeable. A slight extension of the neural spines along the back. In the early Spinosaurids, this ridge was modest, perhaps 10 or 20 centimeters tall. It was a display structure used in intraspecific communication. In the dim, murky waters of the mangrove swamps, visual signals are crucial. Light is filtered and scattered, colors become muted. But a high silhouette, that can be seen from a distance. A bright color, a high silhouette, could attract a mate from kilometers away. It could warn rivals to stay back. Sexual selection is a powerful force in evolution. It can drive extreme features that seem, from a survival standpoint, irrational. Think of the peacock's tail, which is cumbersome and draws predators. Think of the elk's antlers, which require massive energy to grow each year. These structures persist because they confer reproductive advantages that outweigh their costs. In Spinosaurus, the females preferred the males with the taller spines. Why? Perhaps taller spines indicated better health, better genes, better nutrition. Perhaps they indicated dominance, success, territory quality. Whatever the reason, the preference was there, and so the spines grew. Generation by generation, they grew taller. The males with the tallest spines got to mate more often. Their genes spread through the population. The average spine height increased. A runaway sexual selection took hold. The spines grew and grew. They reached 0.5 meter, then 1 meter, then 1.5 meters. Finally, in the fully mature adult males, they reached 1.7 meters, taller than a human being. A billboard of bone and skin, draped in a membrane of collagen and blood vessels. But evolution is rarely about just one thing. Multifunctionality is the rule, not the exception. A structure that large is expensive. Each spine requires calcium, phosphorus, and protein to build. It must be maintained, repaired when damaged. It is fragile. A break could lead to infection, to death. The cost is immense. For such a structure to persist, it must have had secondary functions, multiple functions. It must have paid for itself in more ways than one. Thermoregulation. The Cretaceous was hot, especially in North Africa. A large body has a surface area to volume problem. It generates a lot of heat metabolically, but it has relatively little skin surface to radiate that heat away. A predator active in the midday sun risks overheating, hypothermia, collapse. The sail, filled with blood vessels, could dump heat into the wind. When the Spinosaurus emerged from the water and stood on the bank, the wind would blow across the sail. The blood flowing through the capillaries would cool. The cooled blood would circulate back to the core, lowering the body temperature. It was a radiator, a heat exchanger. Or, conversely, in the cool morning before the sun rose, the sail could catch the sun's first rays. The membrane would absorb the heat. The blood would warm. The warmed blood would give the Spinosaurus an energy boost, allowing it to hunt before the other cold-blooded reptiles had warmed enough to move quickly. It was a solar panel, and there is a third possibility. Hydrodynamics. When swimming, the sail could act as a keel, providing lateral stability. It would prevent the Spinosaurus from rolling side to side as it undulated its tail. Like the fin on a surfboard, it would keep the body aligned with the direction of motion. So we have a convergently evolved masterpiece, a thermal radiator, a sexual billboard, a swimming keel, a multi-tool crafted by millions of years of selection pressure, all in one structure. It is a testament to the efficiency of natural selection, which wastes nothing and repurposes everything. Let us move forward now through the timeline. 97 million years ago. The species Spinosaurus aegyptiacus is fully formed. It is the finished product, the culmination of 20 million years of adaptation. The king of the river, the apex predator of the chem-chem ecosystem. It breeds. We have never found Spinosaurus eggs. The fossil record is silent on this, but we can make educated guesses based on related species and the constraints of their anatomy. They likely nested on the banks, perhaps on sandbars or islands in the river where flooding was less likely. The female would excavate a shallow pit with her powerful claws, scraping away the wet sand until she reached firmer ground. She would lay perhaps 20 to 30 eggs, each the size of a football, elongated and hard-shelled. She would then cover them, not with sand, but with rotting vegetation, ferns, cycad fronds, decomposing fish carcasses. This organic matter, like a compost heap, would generate heat as it decomposed. The eggs would incubate in this warm, moist environment. Much like modern crocodiles and megapods, the incubation period would be long, perhaps 3 to 4 months. The female would guard the nest, fasting, growing lean and irritable. She would chase away scavengers, pterosaurs, small theropods, opportunistic crocodiles. She would be dangerous during this time, attacking anything that came too close. Finally, the eggs would hatch. The hatchlings would emerge, small and fragile, perhaps only half a meter long from snout to tail tip. They would be miniature replicas of the adults in most respects, but their proportions would be different. Their legs would be proportionally longer, allowing them to move on land more easily. Their sails would be mere nubs, small ridges along the back. Their snouts would be shorter, broader, not yet specialized for deep fishing. Life for a baby. Spinosaurus would be perilous. They are snacks for fish, for turtles, for other dinosaurs. They would hide in the dense root systems of the mangroves. They would hunt insects and small frogs. They would grow quickly, fueled by the endless protein of the river. Adolescence, the dangerous years. Too big to hide, too small to dominate. This is when the dense bones would develop. This is when they would learn to dive. They would form gangs, perhaps hunting in packs to corner schools of fish. And then, adulthood. The sheer majesty of reaching 7 tons. The only things they have to fear are other Spinosaurus and the biggest Carcharodontosaurus. But the story doesn't end there. The environment is not static. 94 million years ago, the sea levels begin to fluctuate. The Great Delta System starts to change. The climate shifts. It gets slightly drier. The mangroves retreat. The immense river channels begin to break up into smaller streams. This is the beginning of the end. Specialization is a trap. Spinosaurus is the ultimate specialist. It is designed for one specific world. When that world changes, the specialist suffers. The generalist, the jack of all trades, can adapt. The specialist cannot. The giant fish, the Morsonia and Onchopristis, rely on the deep, continuous water. As the habitat fragments, their numbers drop. The food source for the giant Spinosaurus begins to dwindle. A 7-ton animal cannot just switch to eating lizards. It needs massive caloric intake. Hunger sets in. The populations become stressed. They stop breeding. The great sails become ragged. 93 million years ago. The Cenomanian-Turonian boundary event, an oceanic anoxic event. Where oxygen levels in the oceans drop. Marine life dies off. The food web collapses. The ripple effects hit the coastal deltas hard. The Spinosaurus lineage, which had thrived for millions of years, faces its twilight. The last of the river monsters wanders a drying channel. The water is shallow, hot, and empty. The great sawfish are gone. The coelacanths are rare. It is a lonely image. The last king ruling over a kingdom of dust. Eventually, the last Spinosaurus lies down in the mud. It is weak. It closes its eyes. The sand covers it. The mud turns to stone. The stone waits for Ernst Stromer. It waits for Nizar Ibrahim. But what if? What if the delta hadn't dried up? What if the sea levels had remained high? What if the specialized trap hadn't sprung? Let us explore the path not taken. The speculative spiral of survival. Imagine a timeline where the Spinosaurus lineage persists, where they adapt just enough to survive the climate shift. They might have become smaller. Dwarf Spinosaurus, 4 meters long instead of 15, more agile, able to survive in smaller creeks. Over the next 10 million years, they could have radiated into the ocean, fully marine dinosaurs. We know of marine reptiles, plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, but never a marine dinosaur. Spinosaurus was on the doorstep. One more push and it could have left the land entirely. Imagine a Spinosaurus with flippers instead of clawed hands. The sail becomes a dorsal fin, streamlined and rigid. The tail becomes a fluke, like a whale's. They would hunt in the open ocean, competing with the mosasaurs. They would live young at sea, like ichthyosaurs, severing their last tie to the land. They would become the whales of the Cretaceous, great scaly leviathans breaching in the Tethys Sea. Or perhaps they went the other way. Perhaps they became ambush predators of the deep swamps, evolving into something resembling a giant bipedal crocodile, still laying eggs but guarding them with ferocity. The possibilities of evolution are endless. The Spinosaurus we know is just one iteration, one roll of the genetic dice. But even in our timeline, the influence of Spinosaurus echoes. It shows us the plasticity of the dinosaur body plan. It paved the way for our understanding that dinosaurs were not just terrible lizards, but complex, diverse animals that occupied every niche. We see the shadow of Spinosaurus in the heron stalking the wetlands. We see it in the crocodile. We see it in the bones of the whale. Convergent evolution plays the same hits over and over again. The shape of a water predator is dictated by the physics of water. Streamlined, tooth-filled, propulsive. Spinosaurus was nature's attempt to put a dinosaur into that shape. And for 20 million years, it worked. It was a glorious success. As we spiral back to the reality of the fossil record, we must appreciate the sheer improbability of it all. That land animal, built for running, would turn its legs into paddles and its spine into a sail. That it would grow to be larger than T-Rex. That it would leave the solid earth for the fluid chaos of the river. It is a reminder that life finds a way. It fills the vacuum. If there is food in the water, something will evolve to eat it. Even if that something has to completely redesign its own body to do so. The speculative spiral winds down. We are back in the sediments, back with the bones. But the image of the marine dinosaur, the whale lizard, lingers in the mind. A ghost of a future that never happened. Let us drift further now. Let the currents of time carry us into a dream. A dream of a world where the asteroid never fell. A world where the Cretaceous never ended in fire, but continued in a long, slow summer. A world where the Spinosaurus lineage did not die out, but endured, evolved, and diversified. Close your eyes again. Feel the shift. The boundaries of reality are softening. We are stepping sideways through the multiverse of possibilities. We are entering a timeline that could have been. A timeline written in the code of DNA but never expressed. A phantom world that exists only in potential. Imagine it is the present day. But it is not our present. There are no cities, no roads, no hum of electricity. The Earth is wild. The continents have drifted to their familiar positions, but the life upon them is ancient and strange. The sun rises and sets as it always has. The seasons turn. The ice ages come and go. But the actors on this stage are different. The mammals in this world never inherited the Earth. They remain small, nocturnal, hidden in the shadows. The dinosaurs, the great reptilian empire, adapted and endured. Travel to the Amazon basin. The river is wide, brown, and sluggish, much like the Kem of old. The humidity is thick. The air smells of orchids and rain. The canopy overhead is a cathedral of green, filtering the sunlight into a soft, aquatic glow. The temperature is constant, day and night, a perpetual embrace of warmth. The sound of the rainforest is different here. There are no howler monkeys, no macaws. Instead, the trees echo with the calls of small feathered dinosaurs, descendants of the raptors. They chirp and trill, their voices haunting and melodic. They have learned to live in the trees, filling the niche that birds and primates occupy in our world. But listen. There is another sound, a deep, resonant hum that vibrates through the water. It is a call, a song. It comes from the river. In the center of the river, a shape breaks the surface. It is not a dolphin. It is not a manatee. It is a descendant of the Spinosaurus. Let us call it the Amazonian River King, or Potamosaurus regalis. It is smaller than its ancestor, perhaps 8 meters long. The era of the 15-meter giants has passed, replaced by a cooler, a more resource-constrained world. But it is still massive, a living submarine. Its skin is mottled green and black, perfect camouflage for the jungle shadows. The patterns shift and shimmer as it moves, breaking up its outline in the dappled light beneath the canopy. The sail is gone, reduced to a low muscular ridge along the back. This ridge is covered in sensory pits, remnants of the ancient pressure receptors. It can detect the faintest vibrations in the water, the heartbeat of a fish 50 meters away, the movement of a submerged log drifting in the current. The ridge is used for hydrodynamics rather than display, streamlining the body for efficient swimming. The Potamosaurus does not have legs anymore. Not really. The hind limbs have atrophied completely, hidden within the body wall, much like the vestigial legs of a whale. They exist only as small bones buried in muscle, ghosts of a terrestrial past. The forelimbs, however, are powerful paddles, webbed and clawed. The webbing is translucent, like the wing of a bat, and the claws are retractable. It uses them to steer, to grasp the river bottom, and to manipulate prey. Its tail is a work of art. A broad, flat fluke, horizontally oriented like a whale's. The vertebrae within are fused in places, creating a rigid anchor point while the distal sections remain flexible. The fluke is covered in thick, rubbery skin reinforced with cartilage. It propels the creature with silent grace, each stroke generating a powerful vortex that shoots the animal forward. It breathes air, surfacing every 20 minutes with a soft chuff of exhalation. The nostrils are positioned at the very top of the skull, a pair of valves that can seal shut underwater. When it surfaces, only the top of its head breaks the water, like a crocodile, eyes and nostrils exposed while the rest remains hidden. It is intelligent. Its brain is large, comparable in size to that of a dolphin. The cerebral cortex is convoluted, suggesting complex thought. It has memory. It recognizes individuals. It learns from experience. It solves problems. It hunts cooperatively. Watch. A pod of 3 Spinosaurus is herding a school of giant catfish. They communicate with low-frequency clicks and rumbles that travel through the water, felt rather than heard. The sounds resonate in your chest, deep and primal. They coordinate their movements with precision born of millions of years of evolution. One circles to the left, one to the right. The third dives deep, for its fluke disappearing into the murk, driving the fish upwards towards the surface. The trap closes, the water boils. The predators strike in unison, their jaws snapping shut on the panicked fish. The feeding frenzy lasts only moments. They are efficient, surgical. They do not waste energy. They feast and then they rest, floating belly up in the shallows, letting the sun warm their cold blood. They are the masters of this river. The jaguars on the bank watch them with wary respect, their spotted coats melting into the undergrowth. Even the caimans, descendants of the ancient crocodilians, give them a wide berth. The Spinosaurus tolerates the caimans, for they occupy different niches. The caimans hunt at night, ambushing prey at the water's edge. The river kings hunt in the deep channels during the day. There is a hierarchy here, an order. The river is divided into territories. Each pod controls a stretch of water, perhaps 20 kilometers of channel. They patrol it. They defend it. Young males, driven from their birth pods, wander the margins, searching for a place to call their own or for a female to court. Courtship is elaborate. The male will sing a long, mournful note that echoes through the river system. If a female is interested, she will respond. They will swim together, circling, their bodies brushing. If she accepts him, they will mate in the deep water, intertwined, suspended in the current. Now let us travel to the coast of Australia, the Great Barrier Reef. Here, the world changes. The water is crystal clear, a turquoise jewel that sparkles under the tropical sun. The visibility is endless. You can see for 50 meters in every direction. The reef itself is a riot of color, corals in shades of pink, purple, orange, and gold, undulating in the gentle swell. Swimming among the coral is a creature of breathtaking beauty. The reef dancer, or Spinosaurus. It glides through the water like a living blade, its movements fluid and hypnotic. This is a distant cousin of the River King, separated by millions of years of evolution. It evolved to leave the murky rivers and enter the salt water. The transition was gradual. First, the estuaries, then the coastal shallows. Finally, the open reef. It is sleek like a shark, but with the distinctive long snout of the spinosaurid. The snout is lined with fine needle-like teeth, perfect for snatching fast-moving prey. Its skin is patterned in stripes of electric blue and sunshine yellow, mimicking the refracted light on the reef floor. The pattern shifts with its mood, darkening when it is hunting, brightening during courtship. The reef dancer is fast, terrifyingly fast. It hunts barracuda and tuna, fish that are themselves among the fastest in the ocean. It can accelerate from stillness to 30 kilometers per hour in a single tailbeat. Its body is streamlined to perfection, every curve designed to reduce drag. It has re-evolved the sail, but now it is collapsible. Thin spines, connected by a membrane, can be raised or lowered at will. When raised, the sail acts as a hydrofoil, allowing the reef dancer to make impossibly sharp turns, pivoting on a dime. When flattened, it becomes a seamless part of the body, perfect for straight-line speed. It is the cheetah of the reef, the apex predator of the shallows. It lays its eggs in hidden sea caves, afar from the prying eyes of predators. The caves are deep, accessible only through narrow passages. The female will guard her clutch for weeks, fasting, her body slowly weakening. When the eggs hatch, the young are born fully aquatic, miniature replicas of their parents, no more than half a meter long. They dart into the coral for safety, hiding in the labyrinthine structure, feeding on tiny fish and crustaceans. The juveniles grow quickly. By their second year, they are formidable hunters in their own right. But the reef is dangerous. Larger sharks patrol the outer edge. Giant octopuses lurk in the caves. Only the fastest, the smartest, survive to adulthood. The reef dancer lives for 30 years, perhaps longer. It is a solitary creature, except during mating season. When the moon is full and the tides are highest, the reef dancers gather. They perform intricate dances, spiraling around each other, their bioluminescent markings flashing in the dark water. It is a spectacle of light and movement, a ballet of dinosaurs beneath the waves. Move further north, to the icy waters of the Arctic. Yes, even here, in this frozen realm, the lineage has found a way. The polar titan, or Cryospinus. The journey here was long, over millions of years. As the Earth cooled, some populations of the marine spinosaurids migrated north, following the fish, following the food. The Arctic Ocean, rich in nutrients upwelling from the deep, offered abundant prey. But it demanded adaptation. The polar titan is massive again. Bulk is an advantage in the cold. A large body retains heat better than a small one. It can measure 12 meters in length, rivaling its ancient ancestor in size. But its proportions are different. It is wider, thicker, built like a barrel. It has a thick layer of blubber beneath its scales, perhaps 30 centimeters deep. This blubber insulates it from the icy water, which hovers just above freezing. The blubber also serves as an energy reserve, allowing the polar titan to fast for months during the long Arctic winter when the sea freezes over. It looks like a cross between a walrus and a dinosaur. Its snout is shorter, broader, reinforced with bone. It is designed for crushing shellfish and crustaceans on the sea floor. The teeth are no longer sharp spikes but flat grinding plates. It scoops up mouthfuls of sediment, filters out the sand, and crushes the shells of clams and crabs. It hauls itself onto the ice floes with massive hooked forearms. These limbs are incredibly powerful, capable of lifting the entire body out of the water. It basks in the midnight sun, lying on its side, its skin darkening to absorb as much heat as possible. In the summer, the Arctic sun never sets, and the polar titans spend hours sunbathing, restoring their body temperature after long dives. And yes, it has feathers, or rather proto-feathers. Thick, waterproof filaments that cover its body like a shaggy coat. These filaments trap air, providing additional insulation. When wet, they lie flat, creating a smooth surface. When dry, they puff up, creating a barrier against the wind. A furry, scaly, swimming dinosaur, the last thing you would expect to find in the Arctic. The polar titans are social. They form colonies on the ice, hauling out by the dozens. They vocalize constantly through a chorus of bellows and groans that can be heard for kilometers across the frozen landscape. The colonies are hierarchical. The largest males, with the thickest blubber and the most scars, dominate the center of the group. The younger animals and females occupy the periphery. In the breeding season, the males fight. They rear up on the ice, using their forearms as clubs, striking each other with tremendous force. The impacts echo like gunshots. The winner earns the right to mate with multiple females. The females give birth on the ice, bringing forth live young, a rare trait in dinosaurs, evolved here to cope with the harsh environment where eggs would freeze. The young are born covered in thick down, their eyes open, able to swim within hours. The mother nurses them with a rich, fatty milk secreted from specialized patches of skin. They grow rapidly, doubling in size within weeks. These creatures do not exist, but they could have. The biological toolkit was there, the potential was there. Evolution is a branching tree, and we are only seeing the branches that survived the axe of extinction. The branches that were cut off, like the Spinosaurus, are phantom limbs of the tree of life. We can still feel them. We can still imagine where they might have reached. In this alternate reality, the rivers are not empty. They are not just highways for boats and commerce. They are habitats for dragons. The oceans are not dominated by whales alone. They are shared with reptilian giants. The ice flows are not the exclusive domain of seals and polar bears. They are contested by feathered dinosaurs. The relationship between these creatures and the rest of the world would be profound. Imagine the migrations. Every year, millions of Petamosaurus swimming upriver to spawn, their backs breaking the surface like a moving island chain, stretching for kilometers. The nutrient cycle they would drive would be immense, bringing phosphorus and nitrogen from the ocean deep into the heart of the continents, fertilizing the forests, feeding the soil. The forests would be different. Taller, denser, fertilized by the remains of the fish these dragons catch and carry onto land. The trees would grow faster, their roots spreading wider. The insects would be larger, thriving on the abundance. The birds. Wait, would there be birds? Perhaps not as we know them. Perhaps in this timeline, the small feathered dinosaurs of the canopy never evolved flight. Perhaps they remained ground dwellers, runners and climbers. And what of us? Humanity. In this world, we would not exist. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was the same event that cleared the way for mammals to rise. Without that catastrophe, we would never have evolved. Our ancestors would remain small, shrew-like creatures, hiding in burrows, emerging only at night to scavenge. It is a humbling thought. Our existence is contingent, accidental. We are here because of a rock that fell from the sky 66 million years ago. Without it, this alternate reality might be the real one. The dragons would still rule the Earth, and the planet would be just as alive, just as vibrant, just as beautiful, only utterly different. It is a world of wonder, a world where the ancient and the modern coexist in ways we can barely comprehend. But let us return to the quiet of the riverbank. Step back through the veil of possibility. Leave the alternate world behind. Let it fade like a dream upon waking. We return to the ancient Kem River, the real river, the river that truly existed 95 million years ago. The sun is gone now. The sky deepens from orange to purple to black. The stars emerge one by one, like eyes opening. The moon is high. It is a silver disk, cratered and cold. The same moon that looks down on you tonight, unchanged by the passage of time. The Spinosaurus is sleeping. It floats in the shallows, its body neutrally buoyant, suspended in the embrace of the water. Its breathing is slow, rhythmic. Ha 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 ha. Huh. Its heart, a massive pump the size of a barrel, beats slowly. Thump, 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 thump. It dreams. Does a dinosaur dream? We know that birds dream. We know that mammals dream. It is likely that the Spinosaurus dreams too. What does it dream of? Does it dream of the chase, the flash of silver scales, the taste of blood? Or does it dream of the deep, cool silence of the river bottom? The feeling of weightlessness? Perhaps it dreams of the future, a future it will never see. A future where bipedal apes dig up its bones and marvel at its strangeness. A future where its form is reconstructed in glass and steel. The river flows around it. The water is a cradle. It rocks the giant gently. The night is long in the Cretaceous. but it is peaceful. The predators have fed, the storms have passed. There is only the sound of the water, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of the wind in the ferns. You are floating there too, disembodied, watching. You feel the peace of deep time. The worries of the modern world are irrelevant here. There are no deadlines, no emails, no traffic. There is only survival. There is only life, pure and unadulterated. The Spinosaurus shifts slightly. A ripple spreads out from its flank. It travels across the river, disturbing the reflection of the stars. This animal is a masterpiece of nature, a unique solution to the problem of existence. It found a way to thrive in a world that was trying to kill it. It turned its limitations into strengths, and in the quiet of the night, you can feel a sense of kinship. Not biological kinship. We are far removed from the dinosaur lineage, but the kinship of living things. We are all trying to survive. We are all trying to find our niche. We are all shaped by the world around us. The river flows on. It flows towards the sea. It flows towards the future, and the Spinosaurus sleeps, carried by the current of time. In this alternate reality, we are in the deep past. The boundaries dissolve. You are the river. You are the dinosaur. You are the silence. Drift with it. Let the image of the great sail, silhouetted against the moonlight, be your anchor. The water is cool. The mud is soft. The night is endless. And as you drift, you realize that the monster is not a monster at all. It is just a being, a life, a heartbeat in the dark. We have walked the banks of the ancient river. We have swum in the depths. We have touched the bones and dreamed the dreams of the Spinosaurus. And now, as our journey draws to a close, we are left not with answers, but with a profound sense of wonder. The story of Spinosaurus is more than just a chapter in a textbook. It is a mirror. It reflects the vastness of time and the fleeting nature of existence. Think of the odds, the sheer, astronomical odds against us knowing this creature at all. First, the animal had to live. It had to survive to adulthood in a world of teeth and claws. Then, it had to die in exactly the right place. Not in the forest, where scavengers would scatter its bones. Not in the open sea, where they would dissolve, but in the mud, rapidly buried, sealed away from oxygen and decay. Then the geological lottery began. The mud had to turn to stone. The stone had to survive 95 million years of tectonic shifting. It had to avoid being crushed, melted, or eroded away. It had to be lifted up from the depths of the earth to the surface of the desert. And then a human had to find it. Ernst Stromer had to walk that specific patch of desert in 1912. Nizar Ibrahim had to walk that specific hillside in 2008. If they had walked 10 meters to the left or 10 meters to the right, the Spinosaurus might still be sleeping in the rock, unknown and unnamed. And then the destruction. The bombs of 1944, the loss of the holotype, the Spinosaurus was found, and then it was lost. It had to be found again. It is a miracle that we know it exists. It makes you wonder, what else is out there? What other giants are sleeping in the stone, waiting for a storm to expose them or a hammer to strike them? How many millions of species lived and died without leaving a single trace? Entire ecosystems, entire dramas of life and death played out in silence with no audience. The Spinosaurus is one of the lucky ones. It achieved immortality through the stone. This realization brings a sense of humility. We are latecomers to this planet. The Spinosaurus ruled the rivers for 20 million years. We have been civilized for less than 10,000. We walk on a stage that was built by giants. We inhabit a world that is haunted by their memory. The concept of deep time is difficult to hold in the mind. It is too big. Millions of years, it becomes abstract. But the Spinosaurus makes it concrete. It gives it a face, a snout, a sail. When you look at the Spinosaurus, you are looking at the deep past staring back at you. You are looking at a different version of Earth, a hotter, wetter, wilder Earth. And yet, it is the same Earth. The water that flowed in the Kem River is the same water that flows in your tap. The carbon atoms in the Spinosaurus bones are the same carbon atoms that make up your hand. Matter is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. We are all made of stardust, and we are all made of dinosaur dust. The atoms of the Spinosaurus are still here, circulating in the biosphere. Maybe a part of that great sail is now a leaf in a rainforest. Maybe a part of that massive claw is now a grain of sand on a beach. Life is a continuous flow. Shapes emerge, persist for a while, and then dissolve back into the flow. The Spinosaurus emerged. It was magnificent. It was strange. It was perfect for its time. And then it dissolved. But in dissolving, it paved the way for what came next. The extinction of the dinosaurs allowed the mammals to rise. It allowed us to rise. If the asteroid hadn't fallen, if the climate hadn't changed, if the Spinosaurus and its kin were still ruling the world, we would not be here. We are here because they are gone. We are the beneficiaries of their demise. There is a melancholy in that thought, but also a beauty. It is the cycle of renewal. The old must give way to the new. The monsters must sleep so that the dreamers can wake. And what of the river? The river is a powerful metaphor. It represents time. It represents life. It flows one way. You cannot step into the same river twice, for the water has changed and you have changed. The Spinosaurus stepped into the river of time and was carried away. But for a brief moment, we have reached into the current and pulled it back. We have held it in our minds. We have given it a second life. In the quiet of your room, in the safety of the present, you can feel the echo of that ancient world. The heat, the humidity, the vibration of the ground. It is not something to fear. It is something to cherish. It reminds us that the world is capable of infinite variety. That nature is an artist with an inexhaustible imagination. If Spinosaurus can exist, a 15-meter, swimming, sail-backed dragon, then anything is possible. The universe is not limited by our expectations. It is not limited by our rules. As you drift towards sleep, let that thought comfort you. The world is bigger than you know. It is stranger than you know. And it is more beautiful than you can imagine. The bones are silent now. The museums are dark. The paleontologists are sleeping. The deserts of Egypt and Morocco are cooling under the night sky. The wind whispers over the sand, shifting the grains, perhaps covering a bone, perhaps exposing one. Somewhere deep in the Moroccan wilderness, there is a hillside. And in that hillside, there is a layer of sandstone. And in that sandstone, there may be another Spinosaurus. Perhaps a more complete one. Perhaps one that will answer the questions we still have. Or perhaps one that will raise new questions. The mystery is not solved, it is merely deepened. And that is the beauty of paleontology. That is the beauty of science. There is always more to discover, always deeper to dig. The story is never finished, it just waits for the next chapter. But for now, for tonight, let the story rest. Let the Spinosaurus return to its river. Let the water close over its great sail. Let the ripples fade. You have traveled far, from the present, back through millions of years, to a world of heat and green and monsters. And now you are returning. Slowly, gently. The journey back through time is peaceful. No rushing, no hurry. The Cretaceous fades. The Cenomanian fades. The river becomes a memory. The Spinosaurus becomes a shadow, a dream within a dream. And you are here, in your bed, in your room, safe, warm. The monsters are gone, but the wonder remains. It stays with you, a quiet presence, a reminder that this world, our world, has been home to such marvels. What can we take from the story of the river monster? Perhaps it is simply this, that life is resilient, that evolution is creative, that nature does not accept limitations, that the impossible is only impossible until it happens. The Spinosaurus should not have existed, and yet it did. It thrived. It ruled. For millions of years, it was the undisputed master of its domain, and when the world changed, when its time ended, it left behind a legacy, not of failure, but of triumph. It pushed the boundaries of what a dinosaur could be. It showed us that dinosaurs were not locked into rigid templates. They were adaptable. They were diverse. They were capable of astonishing transformations. And in showing us that, the Spinosaurus teaches us about ourselves. We too are capable of transformation. We too can adapt to new environments. We too can find new ways to survive, to thrive, to flourish. But unlike the Spinosaurus, we have the gift of foresight. We can see the changes coming. We can choose to adapt before the crisis. We can choose to learn from the deep past, from the cycles of extinction and renewal, and make better choices. The river flows on. It has always flowed. It will always flow, and we are all part of that flow. Temporary shapes in the current, here for a moment and then gone. But what a moment it is, to be alive, to be conscious, to be able to look back at the Spinosaurus and understand what it was, to reconstruct the ghost from fragments of bone, to bring it back to life, if only in our imagination. That is the power of science. That is the power of human curiosity. We are time travelers. We cannot visit the past, but we can reach into it. We can pull out its secrets. We can hold them up to the light and marvel. And in marveling, we connect. We connect with the scientists who dedicate their lives to this work. We connect with the Earth, which has faithfully preserved these stories in stone. We connect with the Spinosaurus itself across the vast gulf of time. It is a connection that transcends death. The Spinosaurus is gone, but it is not forgotten. It lives on in the fossil record. It lives on in our reconstructions. It lives on in the imagination of every child who sees its skeleton in a museum and gasps. And now, it lives on in your mind. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, the Spinosaurus will swim through your dreams. You will see the great sail cutting through the water. You will hear the splash as it catches a fish. You will feel the vibration of its footsteps on the riverbank. Let it carry you. Let the rhythm of the river become the rhythm of your breath. In and out. In and out. Slow and steady, like the current, like the heartbeat of the earth. There is no need to hold on to the details. No need to remember the numbers. They have done their work. They have convinced you of the reality of this creature. Now you can let them go. Let them dissolve into the current. What remains is the feeling, the wonder, the awe. The sense that the universe is vast and strange and beautiful beyond measure. The Spinosaurus is just one thread in the great tapestry of life. But what a thread it is, bright and bold and utterly unique. It reminds us that every species, every creature, every life has value, has meaning, contributes to the whole. We live in a time of extinction. Species are disappearing at an alarming rate. The tapestry is fraying. But the story of the Spinosaurus also reminds us that extinction is not the end. Life finds a way. New forms emerge. The tapestry repairs itself, weaving new patterns. That is not to say we should be careless. We should not accelerate the fraying. But it is to say that the story of life is longer and stronger than any single chapter. It is a story measured not in years or centuries, but in deep time. See, in millions and billions of years. And in that context, in that vast sweep of time, we are infinitely small. And yet, we matter. Because we are the ones who tell the story. We are the ones who remember. We are the consciousness through which the universe observes itself. The Spinosaurus cannot know that we have found its bones. It cannot know that we have marveled at its strangeness. But in some poetic sense, through us, it does know. Through us, it lives again. And so, as this journey ends, ask yourself, what is the nature of existence? Is it the physical presence, the flesh and bone? Or is it the memory, the story, the ripple that a life leaves in the fabric of time? The Spinosaurus is gone in body, but it is present in spirit. It is with us. It is part of our understanding of what life can be. And that is a form of immortality more profound than any other. The river flows quietly in the moonlight. The Spinosaurus sleeps in the stone. And you, dear traveler, you float between the worlds, between waking and sleeping, between the present and the past. Feel the gentle rocking. Feel the water supporting you. You are safe. You are held. The current is slow. There is no destination. There is only the journey. And whenever you're ready to explore another world, we'll be here. Waiting by the riverbank, with new stories, new monsters, new wonders from the deep past. But for now, rest. Let the Spinosaurus guard your dreams. Let the ancient river carry you into sleep. The water is warm, the night is endless, and the mysteries of the earth are infinite. And whenever you're ready to explore another world, we'll be here.